agenda? I don't have one. Thank you, Kelly.
I'd like to welcome you to the November 15th, 2016 Selectmen's meeting.
December.
Did I say November? December 15th, 2016 Selectmen's meeting.
13th.
13th?
Tape 3. Tape 3.
To order at 6 p.m. Roll call vote, please.
Gordon Clark, present.
Carolyn Smart, present. Cindy King will be attending this evening. She's not feeling well. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to announce that the meeting is being tape recorded. This is a revised agenda. There was 2 additions added this morning. One was to amend the notice of non-exercise option for a piece of property, and the other is to discuss the permit fees for the West Townsend Fire Station project. There's one other thing I wanted to mention is why December 15th was stuck in my head. We do have a meeting, and I posted for it, for the ceremony at the library for the 2 young Boy Scouts. I just want to make sure, could you let Cindy, remind Cindy?
And that's December 15th?
Yes, 7 o'clock at the library. We're going to have certificates for that, right? Yeah. Okay.
So that's 2 days from now?
Yeah, that's why the 15th.
Oh, all right.
I wanted to bring it up. So with that, I'll move on to 2.1, to approve and sign out of session all the 2017 alcoholic common vicular restaurant renewal licenses as attached, contingent upon a valid certificate of inspection issued by the building commissioner and signed off by the fire chief. Gordon, with all the licenses, do you want to just read them as motions instead of me reading them and then you making a motion? How would you like
I
to?
think that'd be fine.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on that and then you can continue on.
All right, so would you like me to read from 2.1 all the way down to...
Yeah, well, you have to do them as individual votes, but,
All right.
yeah, all the way down to the
So
the
once I...
last one.
Okay.
All the way down to 2.8.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2.6.
Madam Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve and sign out of session all 2017 alcoholic common particular restaurant renewal licenses attached, contingent upon a valid certificate of inspection issued by the building commissioner and signed off by the fire chief.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye. I would also make a motion to approve and sign out of session 2017 alcohol club renewal licenses attached, contingent upon a valid certificate of inspection issued by the building commissioner and signed off by the fire chief in accordance with Chapter 304 of the Acts of 2014.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would make a motion to approve and sign all 2017 alcohol and malt renewal liquor license as attached.
I think it's supposed to be wine and malt, right? Yeah, wine and malt, that's fine, as amended. Second?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye. I would make a motion to approve and sign out of session all 2017 common particular license renewals as attached.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye. I would make a motion to approve and sign all 2017 weekly and Sunday entertainment license renewals as attached.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And these are our annual license renewals that we do each year. There could be some amendments coming forth, but this is the bulk of them approved, right?
Madam Chairman, would you like me to do 2.6 at this time?
Yes, but I did have a question before we moved on to that. I did have a person approach me today that owns one of the restaurants, and they asked why the fee went up to $1,500 this year. Now, we never voted that. Was that something that was already in place?
That was already in place when I got here.
All right. So I'll just have him come up and see you, because he said it was $1,050 last year, and we're paying $1,500 this year. I don't know. Okay. Go ahead, Gordon, I'm sorry.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to approve and sign all 2017 Class 1, 2, 3 license renewals as attached.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
And if folks are interested in knowing the licensees, it is posted online. Okay, 2.7. Review comment on a planning board mandatory referral regarding the installation of a 1,283 megawatt ground-mounted solar facility at 22 West Meadow Road. Did you have a chance to...
Madam Chair, on this matter, you'll note in your packets you had a copy of the application from the property owner and a descriptive letter from attorney John Barrett describing the intention of the parties to have constructed a ground-mounted PV facility, solar array on the property at 22 West Meadow. You'll also see a copy of a letter from the building commissioner in which he indicates that under current zoning that wouldn't be allowed because it's commercial use. Attorney Barrett references the fact that they recognize that it's not currently allowed, but that it would be allowed under the bylaw that is making its way through the planning board and is ready for a town meeting. But as a matter of timing, they want to try to get the facility begun in construction. So as best I can understand this, it looks like an appeal is being made, and the ZBA will ultimately make a decision as to whether or not they can grant a variance on the matter.
So you're seeking a variance to install it prior to the bylaw being put in place?
Correct. I mean, that's what...
I don't have any comment. That's unprecedented territory there. I don't think we've ever done that before. But.
Is there any downside to?
Well, if the bylaw didn't pass for some reason, we have something that's being allowed by variance that's not allowed with our
Correct.
bylaws. But that's not our situation to worry about. That's the zoning board's part.
Correct. This would just be if you have any comments to offer.
Are you,
They know what they're doing. I mean,
Okay.
they're skilled in it.
I will trust into your...
I just don't have I'm not sure what you could say. I mean, they obviously are aware of the situation.
We just say no comment.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Could I just ask one question, if you don't mind, Madam Chairman? Is on page 2, and so you don't have to go looking for it, Mr. Kryler, and I'll show Carolyn. Are these the new updated rates for the building permits for solar panels now that were implemented last year by Building Commissioner Hanks?
I don't know if those are. Those appear to be in the application as a standard, so there may be a different one for
I would want to make
photovoltaics.
sure that any approval is that the updated rates apply here. Okay.
Well, they would, because they've been voted.
That's all, I just want to make sure that it goes down the chain.
Right, if they get a variance to allow the use, they've then got to go back for the issuance of the building permit, and at that point,
And
Mr.
that's
Hanks
what
would
you'd be
apply the
charged,
fees.
And I think this was before we were lucky enough to have you come, Mr. Kryler, but Carolyn and me had asked Mr. Richard Hanks, our building commissioner, to update the fees. And he did a wonderful job. And just so people know, there's some instances where the town could benefit from his quality work in the areas of maybe up to $50,000. So I just, when an employee does that much work, I think it's our job to make sure that
Yeah.
we're...
Those fees, I believe, just belong to the zoning board and the fee that you have to pay to
All right.
apply
For the variance.
for that.
And I sometimes would rather...
I think it's $300 or something, if I remember.
Well, but then it's per unit here. So the only thing is that I'd rather ask questions instead of making a mistake. So thank you. Do you want a motion on this? or
No,
not?
just no comment if Jim wants to forward that to the zoning.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Review, approve the 2017 holiday calendar. And this is just standard done every year. It's updated with the state holidays.
I would make a motion as presented to us by James Crowd, the Town Administrator, subject legal holidays 2017, to approve the 2017 holiday calendar.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then just be forwarded to all the employees.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. 2.9, review and sign Chapter 90 reimbursement for North End Road in the amount of $244,417. That's a big reimbursement.
It's a big project.
Yeah, it was. It's for the north end, road milling, paving, and drainage. It's so much nicer now.
I'm just going to ask Mr. Crowley a question
Sure.
here. Is that amount is different from the one that's on my agenda? Which one do you?
This is the amount within the signature.
Okay. So I'm going to read a amount different from the agenda, all right?
There's 2 forms.
Yeah, so you have the total reimbursement amount of what,
Oh, okay, so I read that one. All right,
Yep.
thank you.
at 100% reimbursement rate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we sign Chapter 90 reimbursement referencing North End Road for the amount of $244,417.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you want to sign those after I do the next one, too?
Yeah, I'll just sign right now.
I have that already.
Oh, you have the original?
Hey, Madam Chairman, if it's all right with you, I'll make a motion to sign Chapter 90 reimbursement referencing Tyler Road for the amount of $163,473.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's for town accountant. And Tyler Road, so much nicer as well. What a big difference. That's for town accountant.
You want to give that to Kelly, please? Thank you.
There you go, Kelly. Thank you.
And this is the town accountant here, right? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kelly, for preparing those.
Discuss closing all non-essential offices at noontime on December 23rd, 2016. So Jim, do you think there's a conflict there for me? Because Cindy's not here? It's not a financial gain, folks, because we don't give anybody paid time off. We just close to the public.
There's no financial value to you.
That's what I thought too, but I've always kind of stared.
And for the record, I would agree with Mr. Crowley that that's no Section 19 questions at all about that.
And folks, the reason we close the offices to the public is the majority of folks take the day off or have half day because it's right before Christmas, and people will come in to do business and no one's here. So if there's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I would make a motion to close all non-essential offices at 12 p.m. on December 23rd, 2016.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is to accept a donation of $10,000 by United Way of North Central Mass to the Townsend Police and Fire EMS Department. And I can read a letter from our fire chief. Each year, United Way of North Central Mass, Inc. chooses 1 or 2 organizations to donate to. This year, the Townsend Police and Fire were chosen, and on November 7th, we were the recipients of a generous donation in the amount of $10,000. Each department received a check in the amount of $5,000 to be utilized as the department chief sees fit to help the department. It is the intent of the Townsend Fire EMS to utilize these funds to replace and/or update our thermal imaging cameras. Chief Eaton has indicated that the police department will likely use the funds for community education programs. On behalf of both the police and the fire department, I ask you to kindly accept this generous donation on behalf of the town. And I would be thrilled to accept that, so I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to accept a donation of $10,000 by United Way of North Central Mass to the Townsend Police and to the Fire EMS.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2.13, accept a donation of 10 Safety First car seats provided by Costco Safety First Responder Thanksgiving campaign to the Townsend Fire EMS. And in an effort to keep the children of our community safe, Townsend Fire EMS provides instruction, installation, and education on child car seats. Frequently, these services are accompanied by a free car seat to a family in need. This valuable program is led by paramedic Nicole Carter. And I know several folks in our community wrote letters nominating her, and she's run that program for years. She does a great job. So I'll accept a motion for that.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to accept donation of 10 Safety First car seats provided by Costco Safety First Responder Thanksgiving campaign to the Townsend Fire EMS.
I'll second that donation. that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Until I second that donation. Okay. Discuss, review, approve amended non-exercise of option for a parcel of land described as off North End Road. The assessor, Vicki Tidman, approached me late yesterday, and apparently there's a problem with the sale of the property. When the original vote and non-exercise of option was done back in December 7th of 1999, they actually referenced the wrong chapter of law within the non-exercise of option. So I did draft up an amended notice of non-exercise of option. Do you want to read that? You haven't had a chance to look it over, so... And it does need to be signed in front of a notary. Kelly's a notary.
I'm going to go grab this now.
Yeah, if you want. Or you witness us, either way.
Okay, I'm fine with that, Madam Chairman. Would you like
Did you
me
have
to
a
make...
chance to look at that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And I also showed it to Vicki, and she felt it would work for their purpose. I guess that, you know, they're trying to apply for a mortgage, and they're pretty strict about chapters of law for some reason.
Absolutely. Would you like a motion on that?
Yes, I would.
I would make a motion to approve amended non-exercise of option for a parcel of land described as off North End Road, and I would further motion that the board approve the chairman to sign that document.
I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'll give this to you, Kelly, so you have it for your minutes too. You can just notarize when you get a chance.
Yeah.
So you go.
Thank you.
All right, what did I think I just put my agenda in there.
Yeah.
I think I did.
Permit fees.
2.15, discuss vote the permit fee for the West Townsend Fire Station project.
The chief's looking to have the permit fees waived, consistent with practice, and that's what we did with the headquarters as well, I was advised. So he's asked that that be before you for consideration this evening.
I actually forwarded that request off to Rich to make sure we weren't missing anything, and he just wanted to let folks know too, we didn't waive the fees for the center, and he's right. It was the person that gave the donation, they paid for the fees and everything, so it wasn't a town project.
Okay.
But he has no problem with the town waiving the fees for the West Townsend, but the only problem is, and I didn't have the chance to look, is it in the specs that the developer has to pay for the permit fees?
Well, you could vote this evening a waiver of the fees if consistent with the RFP that went out.
Okay, that would work. Anything to get the cost to come in as low as possible.
And, Madam Chairman, if I may, I don't have all the facts, and I will get the facts, but I know originally when the people of town supported building that fire station down there, a certain amount of money was appropriated. And due to state law that was unknown at that time, they had to get very creative. So there's been our fire chief, who's been a tremendous leader, but members of our community have got outside the box, and this is going to happen because of them. And I don't want to leave anyone out, but to the citizens, you need to know that your fellow citizens have made this possible by creative thinking down there. And so,
Yeah, they've done a lot of work, and I think they should be recognized. So you have our chief, you have Mark Mercurio, James Normington.
I think Brent King maybe too. So I want to get all the names so I don't leave anyone out.
Yeah, also Billy Elliott.
Yes.
Senior captain.
Yeah. So we'll in a future meeting recognize those people, but
Because I think that would be good.
the people need to know that I believe that not only your chief, who's a paid employee, but other ones who are barely paid. That station's going to be built due to your commitment to public safety, but also to the creative in this day and age to find a way to build it. So I'm very impressed with their work ethic.
They've done a great job, and they've spent their entire summer meeting and working
Absolutely,
on this.
and I think people who go above and beyond, I will never stop commending them. So I'll make a motion if you're so inclined.
Please.
Okay, Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we waive the permit fees for the West Townsend Fire Project, subject to the application of the RFP process.
That'll work. I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
We move into our work session. Town administrator updates and reports.
Just a couple things, Madam Chair. We had a department head meeting last week and had the consultant coming out from the McCormick Institute, UMass Boston. You'll remember that they are doing work on the town's behalf as a result of the work you did to get the Community Compact Grant through the Baker-Polito administration. The two pieces, one is the budget process and the budgetary documents, and the other is the 5-year revenue expense forecast. We met with Sarah Concanon, who was doing the budget docs and budget process, and we have that process finalized. The most recent iteration of the 5-year forecast I saw this morning, and that's getting pretty close to being done, and likely by the end of the week will be finished. The budget memos in the new format, using the new process, will be going out by week's end to all departments, and we'll be looking at a December 15th to January 15th window for departments to submit their budget requests, with a January 15th to February 15th one-month process for the town administrator to work with departments to bring things into balance. At that point, the budget documents would indicate what's happening next. Unlike my experience last year, and I'm not certain with your experiences in prior years, there'll be a pretty well formalized process where there'll be public hearings before the Select Board and the FinCom. And departments will be given the opportunity to actually come in and speak publicly. The public will have the benefit of knowing what their thinking is. You'll have the benefit of knowing what their thinking is, but more importantly, they won't be held behind the town administrator's budget with never having had the opportunity to express themselves. So hopefully this will be an opportunity for everybody to feel well heard, and for the tax-paying citizens to feel like they've had an opportunity to best understand what the needs are of the community. We're really kind of running tight in getting this process underway this year. What this will look like next year would be in late October, early November, there'd be a financial summit between the FinCom, the financial staff, the Board of Selectmen, and that would roll out into revenue projections, which would then define the amount of money that we can project having on the table for consideration. You, from the policy perspective, setting the policy directives for the coming year, would then give budget parameters. All of that would inform the letter that I would issue to departments that they would need to respond back to in their budget submittals. So we'll be starting a little bit earlier next year, but the way the process is right now, we're jumping in a little bit late for that process, but still earlier than we were last year, and clearly earlier than we were in recent years when budgets weren't put on the table until the week of town meeting.
Yeah, pretty much. We also developed policy, which with the Collins Institute, which we'll probably have on the last meeting on the agenda for approval, and then we can forward it on to FinCom for their approval. I think everybody's been on board with this. Were the department heads receptive to the new process? I did hear some feedback.
Yeah, they were. I mean, when Sarah, Ms. Concanon, made her presentation, she did it with a slide deck, a PowerPoint slide deck, and she showed that there's going to be a little bit more documentation sought up front that won't be a recurrent amount of effort, because once it's in every year with only minor modifications, but a little bit more descriptive, a little more narrative, what the department does, what their function is, what their staffing looks like today, what it looked like yesterday, and what they would hope that it would look like tomorrow in terms of full-time equivalent employees. So it'll take a little bit more effort to build that this year, but then every year it'll only be, as I said, modified around the edges. So I think everybody was receptive. Nobody likes to have change. Nobody likes change that puts more work on the table. But I think everybody appreciated the fact that it would be a process that everyone will know in advance. It'll be consistent from town administrator to town administrator, from select board to select board, FinCom to FinCom. This is the town's process. So I think the investment and the time up front is going to pay dividends long term.
So we're going to approve that policy if my members agree to it at the next meeting, but it's also going to be incorporated into our draft financial policies,
Correct.
which we're hoping to approve as a whole. And I think it'll be really good. Now, I know you have to get the budget stuff out this week, but we haven't gotten our projections back yet. So how are we going to...
I'm hoping to have the projections by end of the week when this gets rolled out.
Okay.
With what I saw this morning, he's pretty close.
So we're just empowering you to do the budget letter just so we can get the stuff out? We won't set
It's-
policy?
Well, right now, I mean, looking at a strict reading of the charter, that's how it reads.
Okay. Fine, it's
Obviously,
just-
once I know from Steve Cirillo, the consultant doing the revenue projections, I'll speak with each of you individually just to let you know how it comes in and what it looks like, and then I can use that feedback from you to inform what I put into the letter. I mean, the expectation is going to
I
be...
think the charter is, you're going to look at the projections and say, this is what we can do, folks, and send out all their budget documentation. I mean, it'll be better next year so that everybody can, we can still have maybe in early January, so everybody has enough notice.
Sure.
Still a budget summit meeting, so everybody understands,
Absolutely.
invite the school committee and everything, because they're going to start to work on there. So maybe, why don't we try planning for like the second week of January, because we'll definitely have our projections back by then.
That's
But I
when
mean-
budgets will be due back January 15th from departments.
Yeah, this will just be for information for people. You're going to see the projections early, and you're going to tell them what you want in their budgets, but in case anybody has questions, or do you think that's foolish?
I think that'd be good. I think it'd be good just to bring everybody onto the same page in terms of the new process.
Especially the schools,
Mhm.
and the FinCom maybe, because they wouldn't have had the projections, so.
I can safely say that the projections are not robust. It doesn't look like we're going to be flush with money anytime soon, and that shouldn't
Welcome to Townsend.
but that shouldn't be misheard either. I mean, one of the things that I've always found troubling is when people say we don't have any money. We do. We spend $20 million of taxpayers' money every year, whether it's through the state aid coming back to us or local real estate and local fees. So we have a lot of money. We have a lot of bills, but we do have a lot of money. The projections are still showing deficits out in each of the next 5 years in the most recent iteration. I know, Madam Chair, you've been saying since I've been here that we've got a structural deficit, and a lot of folks have kind of poo-pooed that and looked sideways at you. But the data coming back from this independent consultant is demonstrating that it's in fact the case. So we're going to have to have in the budget memos a level-funded budget with the potential for a reduced budget. Unless something miraculous happens in the next couple of days with the revenue projections and the forecast, that's pretty much what I see is going out on the street.
Well, I mean, it's for the last 3 years or 4 years, we've been spending, our general fund expenditures are higher than our revenues. I mean, that catches up to itself eventually. So when you're first rolling out, we're in a structural deficit, it's easy for people to push that aside because you're matching at the end of the year. You lucked out, you got more tax.
Right.
Tax money for tax title stuff, or you had a run of permit fees that were higher, so you're always able maybe to balance at the end, but that's a one-time thing that you can't count on every year. So it gets dangerous when you're in a structural deficit and you don't correct it, and that's what the Collins Institute has come in to help us to do. And Pepper went through it and they've turned it right around.
Sure.
And we will too.
Toward the point of referencing Pepperell, there's been discussion now for a couple of months between the North Middlesex Regional School District, the town of Pepperell, town of Ashby, and Townsend, through my position, about looking at a regional long-term financial forecast. Every year when we're not being mindful of how all of our financial pictures play against each other, you can find that any given year you're the one in the barrel. A year ago, Townsend was in the barrel and had the high assessment. This past year, Pepperell was really hurting, and until the last moment wasn't certain how they were going to make ends meet. So what this project that we're putting together is going to do is look at everybody across the board as one organization. So, for instance, if we have long-term debt dropping off in 6 years, and we know that that's going to free up what we would otherwise have budgeted for debt service, you can line that up against when the school is looking at doing their next capital piece. So we can say, well, you can't do it in 3 years, but maybe 6 years out we'd be able to absorb it. And the same across the board with the other communities. So it's not going to be anything that anyone's going to be locked down to. It's going to be a guide more than anything. But I think looking at it regionally is a little unusual. I think will generate some good information for us.
And also, I think it would create a spirit of cooperation
Sure.
between the towns, that our well-being is just as important as there is in the whole here. So I think that communication and finds ways to be efficient together, whether it's group buying of equipment or stuff like that. So we can start here, but I think we have been attempting, the board here, I know for a fact, to be more efficient and also getting the most bang for our dollar. And I think thankfully to a lot of the grants and stuff we got, we're doing that. And so it's about not this board here, it's about that we're trying to build a foundation for the future boards and for the town that are sustainable. And that's the thing, is that that's not always an easy or pleasant thing to tell people. But if you're going to look them in the eye and say, we want your standard of living in Townsend to stay, and also so our seniors aren't going to be forced to move out because we don't have control of our spending, but we need to give essential services. So we have to be more efficient, we have to have accountability for our money, and we have to get bang for the dollar. And I think all the things you folks are talking about, I give you credit to everyone who's doing it, but it has to be done. It's painful, but for the long-term sustainability of this town, long after I'm gone from here, this is the time to do it. We can't put it off to someone else on the road. We have to take responsibility and plan. So thank you for coming forward with that idea, Mr. Crowder.
It's really important. It's more than that too, Gordon, because if you tie in the population projections and where Townsend projected to go over the next 15 years, it's, you know, you have to tie all of that together. But to go back to the school, I really support that whole concept as well, because, you know, you can go back to historical data, and it seems every 3 to 4 years, North Middlesex is in need of an additional $400,000 to $600,000 from Townsend. You know, so you can build that into your budget, knowing that's coming. And in 2 more years, they're going to be looking at that need, and Pepperell and Ashby as well. So I know last year we really were conservative on the receipts because we know North Middlesex is going to be needing some help this year. So having that plan for the feasibility going forward is, I think, paramount, and it's going to help the school committee immensely.
Absolutely.
Our projections are going to help the school committee immensely. I know they have Pepperell, so they're in the same situation. So it's all good stuff.
Well, I think it's worked. It's worthy of the future of our town. And I know that sometimes change is scary, but change that is done for a reason, to improve efficiency and to maintain, so those services are available forever, it has to be done. And sometimes we have to...
It improves transparency so everybody knows why you're asking for what you're asking for.
And so that's, I think we have to communicate that. And I think people sometimes are afraid of change, but we have no choice. We have to. We have to. You
can either get ahead of change or you can have it forced on you.
Absolutely. And I think that we have the right people in mostly all the positions here to do the right work.
Yep.
So.
The last point I would offer on this is, you know, we do a lot of talking about regionalization and the fact that in New England particularly we're very parochial and we want our own stuff. We want to do it, you know, even though 4 miles away there's someone else doing the same thing for their stuff. This is kind of a soft lead to regional financial planning. You know, because we are all in it together. You know, while we're looking at this solely from the perspective of what it's like to share a school district, it also, as you just said, Gordy, it also could move itself into, well, we're looking at the fact that we need in 7 years to purchase another, you know, dump truck. Or, you know, so, and Pepperell could say, well, actually, you know, 3 years from now, we need to do that, so maybe it becomes a joint thing that we do. So this could be, you know, something significantly more long-term and broad-reaching than just looking at the potential for the school.
If the foundation is done right with the town administrators, and I think we have 3 professionals in each town, is that it's a foundation where it could grow. You know, just a simple thing, not to say like tree trimmings. A lot of bigger towns have their own aerial truck to do tree trimmings and hang things, that type of thing. Well, a town like Townsend doesn't need one all the time, but 3 towns could afford that $140,000, and so if you build a thing of trust, it's efficiency and you have the equipment to do the work. And I think, you know, the work has to be done, but we have to find creative ways to do it. So thank you again.
Mark Andrews and Jim meet often.
Thank you for that. That's important.
That's really helps everybody. Okay.
And I won't let the opportunity pass. Mark Andrews is an exceptional town administrator, and his financial work, if you look on their website and you look at some of the work that he's done, his town administrator reports actually are vlogs, video blogs. And you know, Carolyn busts my chops quite a bit because she really likes the way that he presents that information. And my hope would be that once we get ahead of some of the more acute issues that are on fire every day here, that we can get to those types of structural presentations. But I will confess to having taken a photograph of Mark Andrews off the website and created a meme that says Town Administrator Kreidler's goals and objectives, and it's just Andrew's picture.
You showed it to Mark, too. I was like, oh, my God.
Mark's only response was that picture had been photo-touched. But just to say, the reason I say that, all kidding aside, is that Mark is a very good resource for us to have next door, to have the regional expertise that he has in terms of this type of thinking is valuable to us.
And they work well together. So it's
huge.
really good for both towns.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no downside to it. So.
No, not at all.
So next I have...
And you're a pretty exceptional town administrator yourself, too.
yeah,
Second
just ask me, I'll tell you. Coppersmith Way.
Yes.
Not expecting a vote this evening, but something for a not too distant select board meeting. We have to visit or revisit the discussion of roads that are not yet public ways, that we provide limited maintenance to include plowing and salting for public safety purposes only. What we have going on now is a subdivision that was never finished. The roads have a binder coat that's been down. It's in decent shape, but it is still a binder coat. And the developer has filed for protection under the bankruptcy laws. We're working on whether or not the bond is in place. This predates my involvement, so we're doing a bit of a deep file dive to determine exactly where we are. The developer believes that there is a bond on hand, so we're working under that assumption. What that would allow us to do is to execute the bond, be able to go in and do the work to bring the road to standard, up to the planning board standards for presentation at a subsequent town meeting to be accepted way. In the meantime, we have a number of tax-paying homeowners that are on a way that yesterday did not get plowed because prior to this year it had been plowed by the developer. I spoke with Ed Kukula yesterday afternoon after I had a visit from one of the residents and made the decision that without setting any precedent about going forward, but for public safety purposes, that the road would be scraped because we knew we had, low teens coming today and tonight on temperature, and that would have just become pretty rock solid on those roads. So we did get out there and get that taken care of yesterday, but we need to more formally address whether or not it's something that the town is going to do. I know there are likely other streets where people are similarly situated that
We do have some private drives out there, and I know the board was petitioned years ago by the folks on Jonathan Lane that requested the same thing, and the board at that time denied it. But their campaign was that there's some really steep hills, and ambulances or fire trucks couldn't get up it without the proper sanding. We have, I know I showed you the file, we have approved other roads that aren't accepted. We followed the process back in the late 90s in order to be able to do that. We voted at a town meeting and at the election. So it is a matter of the Board of Selectmen's vote. Just understanding that we're increasing our routes and our roads on our highway for roads that aren't accepted or up to standards for reimbursement from the state for Chapter 90. So it's kind of a catch. You got to take care of your residents, but you got to look out for the whole too. So in this instance, if the bond is in effect and we can execute the bond and and the intent was to bring the road to town meeting to accept, that's a little bit easier. We did that with Horseshoe Drive as well.
So this is just a one-season problem, if that's the case. So I'm hoping in a future meeting, if not the very next meeting, to have that information for you more formally, so we can know that it's going to be this winter and this winter alone. There's funds sufficient to, based on Mr. Kukula's estimation, to be able to bring the road up to standard for acceptance at the Springtown meeting.
Madam Chairman, I'm thinking here, do we need to, I'm looking for guidance from you and from Mr. Kryler, do we need to empower the town administrator in the interest of public safety for a short period of time to take whatever necessary action to ensure public safety on those
I
roads?
think it has to be an official vote of the board, doesn't it?
Just to salt or
Or is
treat it?
Yeah, I mean, he's informing us
I
that
just
he
don't
made
want
that as an emergency decision, but I think
Okay.
to actually approve that,
Yeah.
and you can check into it, but I
Yeah,
think
I'm
because of the statute.
hoping, I've looked at the long-range forecast over the next 2 weeks, and I think we might get a pass.
We could certainly empower James Kreidler to make that decision for any public safety emergency over
That's
the
what I
next
want
few
to.
weeks. I mean,
Yes,
I think that's
that's where I'm going with it.
I think that's legal, don't you, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely do that. It's your prerogative to make the decision to
So
provide
I'll
the service.
accept a motion for
Right.
that until we meet and can formally discuss.
And the fact that our fellow board member's not here tonight, I would like to include her in that, out of respect for her, that discussion. So I'll make a proposed amendment, and if either one of you think I need to tighten it up at all, please tell me so, okay? I would make an amendment that James Kreidler, Town Administrator, be empowered due to emergency public safety, due to winter conditions, make any judgment calls to ensure that those roads mentioned are treated for the safety of public to the date of January 15th,
I'll second that.
2017.
All those in favor?
Aye. Does that work for you?
It's perfect.
And thank you, by the way, for making a management decision. You know, sometimes we can't get the board together, and we're not going to have children, we're not going to have children getting hit in a bus
Families were
stop.
over there, school
Yeah.
buses couldn't get in.
Yep.
The last I have for you is, I've not confirmed with Mr. Kukla as of yet. I did have a chance to get to him today, but I have reason to believe there is some waste oil that needs to be declared surplus. It's been a standard that you've done through the Highway Department. So if it pleases the board, if Mr. Kukla is able to present documentation between now and your next meeting that waste oil is available to be surplused, if I could have your authorization to declare it surplus and then be able to put it back out for disposal. The reason this has come to my attention is there's some folks that have bid on it in the past or have received it in the past that know that it's available, but we just haven't been able to get ahead of the curve for this meeting yet. So if Mr. Kukla seeks the declaration that it's surplus, if I could just have your approval to accept that as a vote of your board this evening, and we can put it
But they
back
just
out.
use it for waste oil to heat
Yeah.
furnaces
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
there are people that actually use the waste oil. It doesn't cost us anything to get
We
rid of it
used
like
to.
it
We
used
used to have a waste
They have
oil
machines
furnace.
where you can put it in there, I think.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. And we can even do a confirmation vote if
at the next
necessary,
meeting.
but,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to?
No, I think you're okay. We'll just do a
Okay,
confirm.
thank
If it happens, we'll do a confirmatory at the next
enjoy
meeting.
Yeah, if it happens,
Enjoy
we'll do a
making these
confirmatory.
motions.
Yeah.
And that's all I
Bring back
have.
old times, that's right. Cindy makes the motions for you.
Don't get used to it.
That's all I have for you this evening.
Gordon, did you have anything?
Just a couple quick things. One, if it's all right with you, Madam Chairman, and the Town Administrator, as we come to the close of 2016, I was wondering if the Town Administrator, we were talking about different things going on, the Collins Institute, the Compact, the grants we got last week to give the totes for all the people in town, the energy that enable us to weatherize the annex over there, and the $300,000 we got from the state for dispatch. I thought if it would be all right with you, Madam Chairman, and in our next meeting, if just so the taxpayers know that we've been proactive with the help of the board, the town administrator, our state rep, and employees in the town, acquiring a large amount of money to help offset the running, but also much of it's going to be used to plan to better run this town. So if you could give an update of all the, does that make
Kind
sense?
of year-end goals, year-end accomplishments.
But and so people know that this money that it comes out of your tax dollars, just that we're bringing it back to the town.
Right.
Is that this money came in, and this is what we're doing with it. And I think Cindy's thing is about, what's her favorite word there? Openness or
Transparency.
transparency. And and that's a compliment I'm trying to say to her, is that I want to be transparent so the people know that we're bringing this money in for a lot of effort of a lot of people, some of it to the board, but most of it to other employees here. And I think they need to know that where this money's going. So does that make sense to you folks?
Yep.
Okay. And then the last thing I have is I got a call from a citizen. I was out of town for the last couple of days. When I come back, and I didn't know anything about this, and I don't know if Carolyn does or Mr. Kryler, but the citizen was concerned that a full-time position was awarded, I believe, at the Parks and Cemeteries meeting last night for a position of 32 hours that was never posted for anyone else in the outside to have an opportunity to bid on. So if we could look into that, I don't think that's
I
our
think
normal
that's all
procedure.
set. I actually spoke with Roger today
Okay, I
because we
didn't know
got to
that.
change it. Yeah, we got to change the status form, and they just didn't have it posted, so we're supposed to bring over a posting. Jim's not going to sign off until it's...
Okay, that's all. I just like to, first of all, that we do things consistent all the time, but the other thing is, I'm sure we like to give the people a position, but we're always looking for the best person for the position. And I think we need to advertise it, and that person's the person, that's fine, but we have to follow the rules. And again, I don't know enough about it, but when a citizen calls me, I try to get the facts. And Roger was very nice. I called him, and he told me they did it, and they didn't realize that it was a mistake. I said, that's all right, I just need the facts. And I told him I was just going to ask Mr. Kryler and inform you. So you already know, you always know things before me, so not a surprise. All right.
He's just going to take care
So
of it tomorrow.
thanks for that, and I thank you, Roger, for taking my phone call. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm done, Madam Chairman.
Okay, I really didn't have too much except special town meeting. I know you had a department head meeting and you were going to get some feedback. I have heard from especially some of the folks that worked on the bylaws that they really would like to have one in February because they're ready to go.
Still believe that February is doable in terms of the finances as well.
Good.
I talked with both Lori, the town accountant, and Terry, our duplicate circuit riding town accountant, and it's not going to be an easy window to meet, but it's a doable window to meet. And then we'll be where we need to be. So this should be the last of the pain in terms of the process, coming up to status quo from where we were with the prior work product that came out of the collector treasurer's office that put us kind of behind the eight ball.
Okay. So maybe we'll set the town meeting date at the next meeting?
I think we can.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Yeah, if you get a recommendation. The only other thing is, I got expenditure reports for last year, with the regionalization of the communication center. And I was going over it, Jim, and I was wondering, it must have been something we missed, Gordon, if you could check into, we had a pretty large expenditure for a software program called Digital Stakeout, and I didn't know much about it. Could you look into seeing what that program is about?
Is it through communications budget or police budget?
Communications.
Sure.
Appreciate it. And other than that, that's it.
Great.
Approval of meeting minutes. I know Kelly had drafted some. Do you remember the date on them? I forgot to read them. I'm sorry. We can do them all the next meeting if you want.
That'd be fine.
That's fine.
Okay. Because I don't know if Cindy had a chance to look them over either. So.
Yeah, response from me.
Good night, Jerry.
Good night, ladies. Thank you for coming.
Have a good night. Review and sign bills payable and payroll warrant. There's only a bills payable warrant this evening. So I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to review and sign bills payable warrants out of session.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
And with that, we'll go on to our executive session portion of the meeting. And I just wanted to wish everybody a wonderful holiday.
Are we not meeting again till after?
Till after Christmas.
Oh.
Madam Chair, I did speak with Selectwoman King, and she will make herself available via remote participation for the executive sessions this evening.
Okay.
So,
Do you take another roll call in executive session? Is that how you do
yep,
that?
when we go into executive, we'll go into executive using the normal process. Once in, there's the other steps that we'll have to take in order to recognize somebody participating remotely. So
Okay.
we'll do that once we go in, but I just wanted to state while we're still in public session that Cindy will be coming in via remote.
Okay. And with that, we'll move into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy or to conduct negotiations with non-union personnel with respect to the police lieutenant, the police chief, and the fire EMS chief. Also, executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A5, to investigate charges of criminal misconduct in order to consider the filing of criminal complaints. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we enter into executive session pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21A, to discuss strategy or conduct negotiations with non-union personnel with respect to the police lieutenant, the police chief, and the fire EMS chief. I also make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 5, to investigate charges of criminal misconduct or to consider the filing of criminal complaints.
And to adjourn directly from executive session.
And I may further make the motion to adjourn directly from executive session.
I'll second that motion. This requires a roll call vote.
Gordon Clark, yes.
Carolyn Smart, yes.
Good night, folks.
And Merry Christmas to all of you in Townsend.